is Christopher, the local weirdo. Have you heard? No, just possibly I'm just making all of this up, right? I'm just making it up, but I'm just making progress anyway, right? I mean, how could you be so wrong and still able to do so many things so well? How could you be able to communicate at such a high level if you haven't understood something very important in your life? But you may be facing something similar as I, which is being treated like you know nothing, you're stupid, right? I mean, it's like maybe you have some relations, friendship with the Moroccan community, Muslims or whatever, and you've seen them eating sunflower seeds, and you started doing that as well, and now they're trying to just smirk upon you, look down upon you. It's simple things like this. And now imagine what I've done already in this community. Walked on all fours, confronted people with, throwing keys at their dogs, asking them if they do that to their daughter. Right? Climbing trees like a monkey. Saying openly what I think about certain treatments. Realizing there are platforms where you cannot say these things. So you continue to feel them. It sparks you to create more content, to find more intricate ways of communicating what you feel, and then saying them anyway without anybody being able to point it out, but you're still saying it, right? You're still saying it, what you think of certain things, without actually saying it, and you're still here, and everybody thinks, why is that guy still here? He should have left already. Why? Just because you think your angry glare is enough to deter me? I mean, have you ever looked at the angry glare of a snake or a panther? I mean, what are you? I mean, you're probably not even prey, because you're, right, probably too disgusting for that. I mean, I have to say it that way. I mean, I don't just want to eat blubber, right? You want something, some protein. If you just eat fat, you're just gonna get sick. I mean, we all know that feeling where you just ate a bit too much fat and immediately fell asleep. No, we want some protein, right? So I'm actually thinking about cooking. I'm gonna make a cooking session, but I also want to do something else. So if you have such an open mind, people will come and they will say all kinds of things about you, and you realize they're just talking then. I mean, you're running around on all fours, discovering your own potential, and they're sitting around talking about you, which turns them into I don't know what, because nature doesn't have anything like this. So what would they turn into? Nothing. Yeah, the Sackville Bagginses, that's the ones. The ones who think they deserve to have bag end, but never wanted to lift a finger for it. They just thought they should have it. I mean, you can already tell how degraded this place will become after Frodo gave it to them, which is something you only get from reading the books or listening to the audiobooks, of course. have read the books, but I also, at the moment, I listen to the audiobooks again. So what? I mean, why do the Sackville Bagginses think they should have this? Just because it's some kind of an inheritance? I mean, in the end, Frodo gave it to them simply because it was a smart move for leaving the Shire kind of secretly, right? But if you know something about filling a place with life and keeping it alive, then you know that probably Frodo knew his business. He had friends, which for me is a very long way off. I have tried, but kind of everything I do falls away and leaves me to be here and create content. So it's either like I cannot have friends, or I first have to have a stable household. But why do I have to have something first to have friends? You know what this sounds like? Like, there are no friends. There are just people who take what you have to give. This is like, what's it called? The Golden Army from the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, hired guns, hired swords. Is this how a true revolution is going to be like? You just need to be somebody that has money, and then because you've got money, people come to you, but money equals energy. Is that true? Well, that's hard to say. Money equals energy to a certain degree. Money equals... does this sound like the ravings of a diseased mind? Right? People just don't get it. In the end, they're just stuck at, oh, I heard he has taken psychedelics. Yeah. This sheer ignorance of always denying everyone everything. All you can say to that is, well, have you ever eaten sugar? Have you ever drinking a coffee? Well, what does that have to do with anything? They just deny you the credit because they think they can trigger you for it. It's like people don't like your content simply because they know you deserve it the most. Or because they see you and they feel, oh, I cannot like this guy, he's too extreme. What do you mean extreme? I keep nagging, I keep hammering on that word. What's an extreme? The entire society you're living in is an extreme. It's extremely boring, and the people who live in it have gotten extremely weak. And I really have to keep saying that I really have a huge and severe dislike for this form of living together. I'm only here because I really love to annoy people, and there's really nothing else to do for me. Because I like to be right in your face and show you that everything you use comes from nature. Right? And that if you stop sitting around and actually start doing something, you can discover limits that you thought were unreachable, and suddenly, the limit isn't this barrier that you cannot surpass. Suddenly it's something like just another hilltop. Oh, one more boundary I get to inspect. Oh, is that a boundary? Can I do this? Can I stand here right in front of you and eat my sunflower seeds? Is it gonna annoy you? Well, if I was able to create a heaven, then you better not spit on the ground in there. I don't even know why. So, what have we forgotten since ancient Egypt and the pharaohs Why did they build these temples? Why did they build these pyramids? Were they to send out stuff or to receive? Well, what you can feel is that it seems like they lost track. They lost track of just living, and they started building these giant monuments as tombs, or so they said, probably to preserve these deities that they worship. But at some point there always comes, right, you have maybe a few pharaohs, let's say, or leaders that you really can worship, that have this, that can channel all this energy and all that kind of stuff, but at some point it's gonna wither away. It will never last forever, right? Because people get too greedy. They want more of this power that they think they get from this. But, I mean, actually what this is it's people just wanting something to look up to. And then they forget that they too are like this, and they all start banding together and worshipping this one thing. So they give the energy to what they see, like, I want to worship that. So in the end, it's they that create their gods. But I would say, and that's when the land starts to dry out, when people start to worship their own creations or other people, and they forget that it's nature. I mean, if you stop worshipping nature, then what do you expect? I mean, do you think she's gonna be happy? Do you think she's gonna like this? Right? I mean, I don't quite get that. I mean, I can see women as a facet of nature, but what then are men? I think we're both beings of nature, and so I'm as much an expression of nature as any woman is. But I too am always looking for this part outside of myself. I always look for this nature outside. And I certainly have to reconnect with nature, which I somehow would always call a her. But nature has both principles, right? So why should nature be a woman? I mean, nature also has the spiky stuff. Nature has the soft bits. Nature has the freezing cold and the blazing heat. Nature has, the vagina and the penis. Why does everyone always portray nature as a woman? I mean, I've got round parts. I'm not just hard. There's women that are round. There's men that are a bit round. So, I really want to change that perception that I have of myself. Of this kind of like a trained dog that has to do somebody else's business. I mean, how do you get there? How do you find yourself again as equally desirable or equally undesirable? So what you want is probably to find a partner that simply is like you, because what I feel like is there are clearly different kinds of species of humans. What we call humans, what are, in that sense, just beings. So, if you walk like through a field of grass, then there's gonna be grasses that probably together, but it's also still competition. And then there is also orchids. So I'm not saying you're an orchid, but I'm saying you might be. Because there's people who just, just take someone, right? It's like with sheep, they just live together like or cows, and they don't care, just hump me. If you're some kind of an alpha, just hump me and give me a child. But then there's also things like, very brittle things, very gentle things. And then there's very nasty things. And sometimes things become nasty just to protect themselves. And then you're like, so I keep saying that. I just don't feel like everyone else. Because if I spend time with everyone else, I don't even speak the same language. What I say and what others understand is a complete difference. So yeah, I feel like I'm more one of the X-Men. I feel like I'm somebody who has, to most people, superhuman powers, but to me that's just normal. I mean, try escaping the bubble and reaching for your limits, and then you'll overcome some. But of course there's always new limits. So there used to be, if somebody managed, right, everybody only looks for actors. But if you're a normal human, simply living in a city, and you really show that you can really do something, you're really good at doing this or that, then people just treat you like a freak or something. They all give you crap for it, because in their minds, everybody thinks they're the toughest guy around, right? Oh, I'm the best at whatever. And then you come around, and you're better at everything. You're better at moving, you've got your own style, you broke out of the masses, you don't care to a certain degree what people think. You care in a certain way, but you do it anyway, what you want. But it still feels annoying that you're being judged in such a way, simply for doing what you feel like. And then you run around and everybody sees you, but you see nobody else. You just see yourself in your own path, and everybody sees that, and then they give you shit for it, and then they have to realize that you don't care, you just want to continue anyway. So what everybody wants is, they just want to have power over somebody. And if they see somebody like you, who's free, who's got spirit, what they want is, they want to harvest you, they want to control you, they want to have power over you, right? They want to see that they can somehow intimidate you or push you around or give you stupid ideas that you then put into action just to see you, run into one problem after another, and then you realize, or they realize, he doesn't do that. He never listens to anything I say, right? He never listens to anything I say, and he never does anything I say. I can say whatever I want, he just does what he wants. And that's the message. If you want to smoke, smoke. Where you can smoke, but not in my apartment. What's my apartment but the apartment that I occupy? As long as I can hold the space, right, I'll probably get to keep it. But, you know what I'm saying, right? The idea is to figure out yourself, and then to simply focus on that. But what you have to understand is that everyone else is focusing on the outside because they're afraid of their own darkness. And now you're incorporating your darkness, and you turn into what Ram Dass labeled as the perfect Black Panther, which is true, because if you work together with your shadow, right? Shadow and light, and that's then you. I mean, nobody will be able to stand in your presence according to the law of attraction, because they're just trying to channel darkness, which is their gossip, it's their kind of voodoo stuff. And you're just gonna repel them. They won't be able to stay in your presence, or they want to be in your presence, but you no longer feel like it's actually nice. Because you realize they're just wasting your time. Because time is energy. And you can give people time with you who has realized something, but then you realize if you do that, they pride themselves. They think they don't have to work on themselves anymore. I mean, it's really weird. But if you give yourself into the presence of people who actually don't do anything, I mean, they just get all this attention and they're not used to it, and then they think, oh, look how cool I am. Now I've made such and such a friend. So you have to be in your position very responsible about who your friends are. And you always have to ask yourself, would you like your child to be here right now? Like your newborn child? And your wife, would you like them to be in the presence of these people? And with most people, I'd say no. Because most people I know, and that includes, maybe family members, they kind of lack respect. Which is why to me, if I think about having children and being with the woman that I love, how do I keep her safe? How do I keep her safe from this vicious environment? How am I going to do that? Well, I've learned to a certain degree to keep people at bay simply by being quite vicious. So you have to get off my back, right? I mean, I'm giving as much as I can, but for you it should be enough that I'm here. I'm not going to carry your groceries, because if you're too weak to carry yours, then maybe you should have stopped slacking off 10 years ago. I mean, now you realize how weak you are, and now you see my strength and you want that, but who are you to me? Are you my father? Are you my mother? Right? Are you my sister or my brother? No, you're just some random old lady. You never did anything for me, and now I'm supposed to pay you back for what again? I mean, you live in a social state, you pride yourself to live in a social state, so pay for the service, right? Or just pick up your own dead weight. Start holding planks, You could be 70, you could be 60, you could be 85. If you feel weak, then you have to do something, because age is relative, my friend. You just thought, if I'm 85, I have to be this weak. Well, there's 85-year-old yogi in India that jump out of windows, and there's 120-year-old yogi in India that jump out of windows. And what they probably realized is that age is relative, and if I do certain things, I'll rejuvenate myself. I mean, that's just the basic principle of channeling energy. You keep it flowing, you manage to keep it flowing, and at one point you'll just merge back into nature. Probably like you never even existed. And that's the beauty of it all. Right, in a way, yoga is actually learning to die really slowly. I mean, it's even about breath, reducing the amount you breathe, so that each breath is richer and fuller than the previous one, because you get better at breathing. You can even, I do a lot of breath holds. I mean, every time I speak or I do things, I hold my breath, sometimes during these exercises that you could call asanas or something, that I just call holding planks. I incorporate breath holds. I don't have to tell you that, but I did now. the point of always looking at what other people do? I mean, I look at it and I think they have no idea, I'll just do it myself. Well, maybe they know what they're doing, but it doesn't look like it. Because if they knew what they were doing, then they wouldn't just be doing that, you know? Then it would have way more depth than it has. But it has no depth. It's just tight pants and a mattress, and then just doing something. So, some people just like a lot of restrictions. A free mind likes open space, right? Likes wind in its face and no shoes. So if you're still walking around in shoes, then I don't think your mind is really free. I think I can really see if your mind is free or if you're just talking about stuff. I think, like, if you cannot even let go of your shoes, then your mind simply isn't free, and then you actually do not really want to know what human potential can do. So, I'm just saying, right, why are people so afraid of taking off their shoes? What is this fear? And why do they have to act like everyone's the freak that does it? Right? I mean, you get stronger and tougher than you've ever been before. And then my presence shows you that you're an orc. You're the orc. You're the orc. You're the cyborg or whatever. You're the weird cripple guy. And I'm jumping around, running around on all fours. And you keep drinking your coke, look at me and say I'm bad. Yeah, I healed myself. So you see the perspective. It's left, it's right, what is it? So who's talking? Who's judging? I mean, you look at me, you say I'm a freak or have a sick mind. But you sit at home, eat cake and watch TV, and cannot even stand for 10 minutes without swaying, and you tell me that I'm all of this? While you're working towards a future where you sit in a wheelchair and are being fed cake by some kind of caretaker? So, who's the crazy one? Right, who's the crazy one again? You know, I just don't get that. I mean, I'm really trying to, but the longer I have lived here, the more I have realized that the best thing you can do is just find ways to keep people away from yourself by simply never buying anyone's bullshit, and then just focus on your own personal development. And if you have a knack for sharing it, share it. Or keep it in the community. I don't really know. But if you're at least a little bit vicious, I mean, if you look at The Lord of the Rings, then Gandalf, he certainly hasn't the most time because he's got so much stuff to do. Because he's not an ordinary human, he's, as described, one of the Maya. Like ancient old beings, right, that simply run around and go to people in times of need and that kind of stuff. Right, it's like that savior, he who carries hope. But if you carry hope for someone, you're usually something that lives somewhere in the distance. Why that is so? Well, it is simply so. You've got light, people look up to you or want to look forward to seeing you. They don't want you sitting in their living room. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I mean, you wouldn't have liked, because there seem to be different kinds of people. Otherwise, why would have somebody like Gandhi have emerged? You know? How should somebody like Wim Hof have emerged? just like that. So there's a lot of things happening that you know nothing about. But if I talk to you about consciousness and about mind and the things I have discovered, then you act like that's all nonsense. You listen to this and you say, well, what is he talking about? Well, exactly the kind of stuff that you only get if you spend a lot of time getting to know yourself and then trying to express it. And yeah, for that I can say that yes, psychedelics can get you going, but ultimately you should show your prowess by reducing them. And that's what I mean, right? Yes, you can drink coffee, but maybe not every day. Because you can also strengthen your mind by saying no to coffee for, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. And then you drink it again when you feel like it. So there's one thing that really annoys me, and it's the shutters of one of my windows, which just kind of like something happened and now I cannot open it anymore. And it's just such a hack job. And it's just annoying me already thinking about it, but something needs to be done because it annoys me even more that it's closed all the time. So I have to do something about that. I'm just afraid to break it. So, you set your own pace, and then you simply see where you're going, and then you can project certain choices into the future, and that's then called what some people call kind of a vision, right? You can say, okay, if I do this, I'm going to land there. So sometimes you simply have to take the time to think about who you are as an individual, what your actions say about you, and then adjust yourself. And then you have to say, okay, like this, like that, what am I supposed to do? Energy is flowing, okay. In what ways would I like to be creative?